Story 1. Not being able to judge the ages of people younger than you accurately anymore. Like finding out that the coworker you thought was in their early 20s is actually in their late 30s. True story. Story 2. One thing that made me realize I'm not young anymore was when my doctor brought up the idea of freezing my eggs. First, I got a bit irritated and offended, but it was also a wake-up call that time was actually passing, and I needed to start thinking about things I never considered before. Story 3. The smallest cut takes weeks, multiple, to fully heal and go away. Dairy just isn't worth it anymore. Things that were so colossally important to me in my 20s and early 30s are now so small and insignificant to me. I sometimes throw my back out if I roll over wrong. Hangovers are a 3-day affair. It's not all bad, though. I easily prioritize the important things. I'm a lot more objective. I can find happiness in any situation. I'm able to help people in significant ways. Little things don't get to me. It's peaceful being older if you choose to be. Story 4. Hey uncle, let's have a drink, said my niece. That's the moment I realized that I was going to have a few drinks with someone whose diapers I had changed myself. Story 5. As I've gotten older, I found that attending or hosting family gatherings has become really important to me. I love creating opportunities for everyone to come together, share a meal, and celebrate. It's a chance to reconnect, make new memories, and strengthen those family bonds that mean so much. Story 6. My ignorance with today's technology. Having to call the 10-year-old in to assist me with features on my own phone. Also, meeting people the same age as you, and they look so old. Story 7. I was in the shower and accidentally pumped conditioner into my hand first. The bottles were reversed. I absolutely pumped shampoo into my other hand and did that first, one-handed, while keeping the conditioner hand out of the water because I didn't want to waste it. Story 8. That moment you realize you are more than halfway through your life. I reckon that's about 38, maybe less or more, but somewhere there. I remember as a child how some days felt like weeks and some weeks felt like months. Even an hour could take forever. Now time just flies by. Story 9. Just yesterday afternoon, I was leaving a local burger restaurant when I saw a beat-up, mid-2000s Ford Escape parked nearby. Four college-age guys in bathing suits got out, clearly having just had a fun day swimming somewhere. It made me reminisce about those carefree summer days before classes started again. Just having fun with your friends. No responsibilities. What a time. I took it for granted. Story 10. I used to be quite tomboyish well into my early teens. After my dad introduced them to me as a kid, I used to play Call of Duty, Battlefield, Command and Conquer games, among others. But now that I have a stable full-time job, earn adult money, and bought a gaming laptop, gaming monitor, gaming chair, and headset, I find myself not really playing any of the games I used to enjoy as a kid anymore. Instead, I mostly just use these things to watch cooking shows and history documentaries. Story 11. I'm almost 40, no kids. I'm in good shape, have no aches and pains, have an active friend group, keep up with new music, technology, etc. Still party pretty hard, play sports a couple of times a week. I don't really notice much of a difference in energy level or pain-wise from 15 years ago. What makes me realize I'm not young is seeing my parents become elderly and not as sharp as they used to be, and seeing friends who have kids drop off the map and seemingly age rapidly. And like sports players who I grew up watching being managers now, haha. I'm sure age will catch up with me eventually, but honestly, from my perspective, what makes someone not young anymore is just falling into complacency and no longer prioritizing, for better or worse, their own body and interests. Story 12. Recovery. There's a reason most professional athletes retire in their mid-30s. All through my childhood, late teens, 20s, and even early 30s, I used to lift weights, be active, play sports, and so on almost daily. Now, in my later 30s, I'm sore for 2 days after playing squash. I heard LeBron James spends $2 million a year on recovery through coaches, techniques, tools, supplements, and so on. Story 13. Getting up out of a chair. Seeing bad grammar. Seeing people wear things that were in fashion when I was young. Modern music, the stuff without a tune and has incomprehensible lyrics. Not real music. Meeting friends and comparing symptoms or ailments. Young hooligans on my lawn, etc. Story 14. My last name is Barker. In a lifelong effort to not be mislabeled as Baker or Parker, I've always stated my last name as Barker with a B as in Bob. Unfortunately, no relation, and we'd share a chuckle or state our affinity for good old Bob. A few years ago, I finally got my first "Who's that?" from a young coworker, and I swear I could physically feel the gray hair start growing out of my head in that moment. Story 15. Running into someone from school that I haven't seen in a while and thinking about how old they look. Then a few seconds later, it dawns on me. They are my age and I am old too. Story 16. It's mostly how other people treat me or act around me, especially people in their teens and 20s. They make me feel old when they tense up as soon as I enter the room, as if I'm going to be strict or something. Story 17. Realizing how young people in their 20s can be foolish with narrow minds or making very poor choices for themselves, and realizing that I did the same things for which I now pay the price. Realizing that these 20s we think are adult age now seem to me like an extension of teenagehood. Story 18. Seeing kids driving and thinking, wow, aren't they like 12? And they are actually like 18 or 19. Also feeling that the driving age is dangerously young. Story 19. Roller coasters. Trust me, you will get on them and all of a sudden everything hurts, and your brain is scrambled, and you are wondering when these rides became so violent. Story 20. For me, it was the radio. I heard a commercial for an iHeartRadio concert in Las Vegas. They rattled off the lineup, and I had no idea who any of the performers were. Story 21. Befriending people who have no personal memory of huge events like September 11th, because they either weren't born yet or were just a toddler, is an experience. I remember for a while thinking of the world in pre-September 11th and post-September 11th terms. Story 22. Preparing to put on socks takes effort. Take a breath, balance, then realize you need to sit down or you'll fall over because you can't reach anyway. It's part of the daily routine these days. Story 23. Children wearing clothes I wore in school, especially the Nirvana and Sublime shirts. What the heck? They don't even listen to the music. One kid told me she just liked the happy face. Story 24. Gray hair or balding, wrinkles, growing waistline, decreased stamina, memory issues, out of touch with youth culture and new technology, until I'm tired of this nonsense, and I don't care what you or anyone thinks. Story 25. Seeing my reflection, aches and pains, no longer trying or able to hold everything in, experiencing light bladder leakage, losing hair on my head, and gaining hair on my chin. Story 26. A friend realized his parents were definitely old when his dad was excited because the weather was going to be on television soon. I asked my own friends to snap my neck if that ever happens to me. Story 27. New slang terms, just existing with your knees and back, and young adults at your job never having heard of Denzel Washington, Ben Stiller, Natalie Portman, or Jack Black. Story 28. When you hear young adults act like they know everything, and then hearing older adults who actually know a lot, and then you're just stuck in the middle like, what the heck? Story 29. Getting drunk. I don't drink anymore, but when I did, nothing said you're old like waking up the next day. We used to party until 2 a.m., then be at the job site at 6 a.m. and work a 10-hour day. The last time I drank was 3 years ago. I had to call out of work the next day. Story 30. When I was young, I felt I could do anything and could bounce back from anything I put my body through. About 9 months ago, I stood up and put a bucket-handled tear in my left meniscus. Last week, I stood up and ripped my right meniscus. Going from invincible to unable to stand without requiring surgery is definitely my sign. Story 31. I went to have my eyes checked. My regular ophthalmologist was on vacation, so I had a younger female doctor as his substitute. We did the eye chart on the wall exam, and she tells me the results. Something fires off in my memory banks, and I say, wait, that's better than last time? I didn't think vision could improve. She replies, oh yes, that can happen. It's typical in patients who are about to need bifocals. So I head home and self-deprecatingly relate this conversation to herself, who promptly startles me by screaming, No. I say, what's your problem? I'm the one who's going to need bifocals. Herself responds, that means you're getting old, which means I'm getting old. No. Story 32. When major cultural touchstones aren't known by anyone else in the room you are in. I was in a room with 3 other people who didn't know who Nirvana is. Story 33. For me, it's the no reason aches and pains. When I was young, if I felt pain, there was a reason: leg day, injury, hangover, etc. These days, who knows what that random ache is for? Maybe it's because I slept weird. Maybe it's because I'm coming down with something. Maybe it's cancer. Maybe it's nothing. Story 34. These changes are a normal part of life and often come with new insights and perspectives that can be just as valuable as youth. Embracing these transitions can help you find new ways to enjoy and appreciate each stage of life. Story 35. When you talk about having to rewind the cassette tapes when a song comes on that you remember from childhood, and having to rewind each time, and someone asks, what is a cassette tape? Story 36. Seeing the kids in my apartment come back from their school and just hang about with their friends. Life used to be so easy as a kid, yet we all thought it was hard. Story 37. My knees, darn it, stopped working correctly in my late 40s. Used to laugh at the I've fallen and I can't get up commercial. I'm headed that way and I hate it. Story 38. Realizing most of your bodily pain is caused by sleeping in just a slightly different position than usual, and waking up in pain most mornings instead of being well rested. Even if you aren't waking up in pain, you still aren't well rested for whatever unknown reason. Story 39. New music sounds like it is not good. I understand older people now. The older I get, the less I want to be around others. Slang, what did you say? Food, some foods I love no longer agree with me. Story 40. I used to be able to spin my right arm in circles very fast and launch a cricket ball at incredible speeds. Now, if I go faster than 1 RPM, my shoulder locks up for a week. Also, I can't raise my left arm above my neck. Story 41. When you catch a look at your parents and are reminded of how your grandparents looked when you were a kid. Saw a recent picture of my dad on Facebook, and my jaw dropped because for a second I saw my granddad. Story 42. You know you're not young anymore when you get excited about canceling plans. Your back has more cracks than your phone screen, and staying up past 10 p.m. feels like an extreme sport. Oh, and let's not forget the moment you realize that new music just sounds like noise.